Welcome to another Breakout Finder video cast. I'm your host, Nate Liss. You can find me at An Outraged Jew. And with me, as always, the man with his closet doors closed. Very professional tonight, Mr. Ryan Lopes.
Yes, sir.
Find him on Twitter at StillRyan5. You know, this is an impromptu question. What is Still Ryan 5? I don't get it.
Bro, back in middle school, when was AOL Instant Message popular? I had, whenever that was, circa 94. Who knows, dude? I had my screen name. I had two screen names. I don't remember the first one. The second one, though, however, was Copy 5. The number 5 has always kind of been my number. Made my first Twitter account was like Ryan5, first name, favorite number, and your boy just kind of. And here we are, man. Now we're here. We're here. Closet doors are shut, and we're living some sort of best life.
We need to. First off, my number through sports history was number 5. So
there you go.
Should present the claw, and I'm gonna take a sip and remember the good old days.
Last week, man, Sigmund Bloom. Incredible guest.
Yes.
Last week was a claw catastrophe for your boy. I dropped the ball. I was clawless. I know what it meant to you. I was in my own head the whole show, but your boy's bouncing back in a big way this week. I grabbed the mango out of the fridge. Which, by the way, if I could, dude, it might be a take, perhaps a hot one. Mango to me, best flavor.
I don't think anybody's going to dispute that mango is not the best flavor. I went and was in a golf tournament recently. It was the first time I had a mango. I attribute my piss-poor golf performance on the mango, but I do agree. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm just a bad golfer. I just don't have that stroke.
Combination of the two.
Name one good Jewish golfer. Go ahead.
Bro, I don't know. I'm gonna take another sip to your terrible round.
That's right. It's hard. It's barely any in baseball. You got Lenny Dykstra. I think Mike Piazza might have been. Doesn't matter. Okay, let's move on. God, Mike Piazza on a football podcast?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Very serious pod. We got a lot. We got surprisingly a lot to talk about, I think. So, Nate, bro, let's indulge.
Yes. I can stretch it. So first off, Ryan is, like we talked about last week, he released his 2019 wide receiver tiers, posted on the website, posted a link on Twitter with a graphic that shows his tier number 1 wide receivers. And Ryan goes in hard on these things, man. He's got blurbs on every fantasy relevant player that you can think of. He's got sweet background on this thing, a lot of time put into it. It's a good read. And it looks great. I got to be honest, man. Breakout Finders just really worked well for Ryan. He's just he's stepped it up, man. He's it's that swan song. He's beautiful now, and these posts are just. We got this pop up as I'm trying to read it. What's up with that pop up? Anyways,
just enter your email. Everyone, enter your email.
Yeah, enter your email. It helps us get rid of the pop ups. We're waging war on those things. So Ryan, this coming week, is going to release his tight end tiers. So be ready for that. And then in the future, what's your next article beyond that? Because we know the season is about to kick off.
Yeah, so I'm drafting personally. I got 2 of the higher stakes leagues that I do on the 29th and 30th, respectively. I imagine that's kind of ours are kind of late in the season, and we'll talk about it in the very near future. Our guy Evan Silver brought up how, the more serious the league, the earlier you draft. So that's an interesting topic for a future show. Mine this year and years past are kind of late, and I think around this time of year, late August, most home leagues and or whatever kind of leagues you're in are drafted around this time. So next week, along with the tight end tiers, I'm going to roll out what I'm going to call my final top 200 PPR rankings as well. Dude, those things are. Again, it's tedious. It's a labor of love. Anyone that does weekly ranks is a whole different kind of level of sociopath. But the whole kind of pre-draft ranks is again, a lot goes into it. News is coming hot and heavy, so I've done my best to kind of make those as accurate as possible for those that might want to reference said ranks when they walk into their draft.
And Ryan, he has been grinding, man. I'll tell you, the ranks are a pain. I haven't done any yet. I leave that to Ryan. Ryan is much better at it than I am. And the tight end tiers will be a very good article as well. In addition to that, we had Ray Mars posted one about a case for Dontrell Hilliard since Duke Johnson is gone. this is a good late round option with a late pick. So check that article out as well. And the last thing I want to bring up, man, we're trying to expand, do some different things, build on the website, try to keep these podcasts going, keep them free. And one of the steps towards that direction was us starting a Patreon account. And that Patreon account is patreon.com/breakout finder. And over here, we've got 3 tiers. And the way these things are set up, in the basic level tiers, you can ask questions, get previews to the Breakout Finder information as it comes. Because as we go through these college seasons, these players in Dynasty that you're going after, you're seeking, we're going to be updating some information. We can answer questions as the season goes along, so you can get some really cool insight and maybe start to position yourself for these draft picks. The other thing is just join in with the community. There's going to be banter. People are going to be asking questions that we'll be able to post on the show, depending on what tier you're in. Ryan will answer stuff. I'll answer stuff. It makes us the most accessible that we will ever really be. One of the tiers that's kind of in the middle gives you the ability to vote on topics for podcasts or, help reach out. If we tell you in advance who's coming on the podcast, is it going to be Sigmund Bloom? Is it going to be Danny Kelly? Is it Matt Kelly? No relation. You have a question for him, you can hit us up. Maybe we'll ask him on the show. If it's the right question, we'll go back and forth, dial it in. We want input from you guys. And at the Patreon account, it's really going to give us the opportunity to kind of get closer to the community. And then in our biggest tier, we're going to help people out with their fantasy football rosters, answer questions, trade questions, draft questions, whatever you've got. If you want metrics that we're not answering inside the chat, something deeper, something custom, hit us up. Let us work with you on it. Because like I said, we want to work for people. We want to build what we're working on right now to supplement some of the things that we're doing. And Patreon's a great way to do it. If you want to get a little closer to what we're doing and you want to kind of get a little more personal information, Patreon's going to be the place to do it, and we're going to be pretty active over there. So check that out. That's patreon.com/breakout finder. And Ryan and I talk because we just launched this. We're going to look at probably the first 5 people to sign up with it and do something special for them, whether it's a Skype session or a personal draft thing, something cool. So no matter what tier you're in, we'll work with you on it and do something special for those people because we're really trying to kick this thing off. With that said, Ryan, the database, because I know people ask me all the time, what's up with the database? Where is it? What's going on? It's done, but it's getting some final tweaks on it. I know people are like, is this thing really happening? Is this even a thing? Is this
First it was the website, now it's this database. Like what are you guys doing behind those curtains?
Look,
behind
man,
the closet doors. I don't know.
I don't want to be a rooster in the hen house, but look, it's coming, okay? So I don't want to stir you guys up, but I promise it will be here this year. With that said, Ryan, got the flag at half-mast. Should we take a moment of silence for Hakeem Butler and his broken finger? Yes,
bro. I'm gonna take a moment of sip for our fellow comrade, my fellow comrade. I know you're not you and Kelly, but dude, Hakeem, the finger. I'm heartbroken.
I took a quick sip for Hakeem Butler. I'm not gonna waste any time.
I appreciate that. Hakeem appreciates that. I appreciate that, man. It's been a roller coaster offseason for the relationship that we've had, Butler and I. Things really weren't shaping up to be too pretty rookie season, and now, top of all this, man, that pesky finger.
I mean, imagine being in your rookie draft, because we talked about this on the Sonic Truth the other night. Hakeem Butler at one point was in that wide receiver 1 conversation before the draft. It was out there. People were all over Hakeem Butler. Imagine taking him as like the first receiver off the board, maybe before David Montgomery, before N'Keal Harry, before A.J. Brown. Imagine that. Imagine him sliding behind Keyshawn Johnson, Kevin White. I don't know about that. Chad Williams. I don't know about that. Imagine him sliding that far and you holding on to him. What do you do now?
Bro, I mean, you're not doing much besides crying and hoping that, I mean, the only reasonable, right now you're hoping that this Arizona offense really truly is as dynamic and voluminous and special and fast-paced as one could. There's been a ton of opinions that Cardinals are like one of the fantasy darling rosters going into the season, right? So the hope is that this year, Hakeem Butler, they're smashing. Year 2, Butler's back, finger is finger is intact, and the jetpack's back on, bro. The jetpack's back on, and we're taking off. I mean, I think something probably has to happen. I mean, obviously, we're thinking Fitz is walking away. Maybe Ricky Seals isn't the prospect, the player that we thought he was, because he kind of has that big body. He's kind of that tall, red zone type player. Because Murray came out earlier and said, I haven't really had, a threat, a weapon like Butler. That was kind of when that quote came out, bro. I derobed. And then it was steadily downhill from there, unfortunately.
Well, of course, he hasn't had a player like Hakeem Butler, because all the other guys that he had were actually playing. Hakeem Butler's faded into oblivion.
I can't do this right now, Nate.
Okay, hold on. Explain this to me. When I look at the Breakout Finder database, and I'm looking at it right now, it's tangible, people. It's real. I'm touching it. I got finger marks on the screen. Look, Hakeem Butler had a 17.1 teammate score. For perspective, A.J. Brown had an 80.4. So a 17.1 overall teammate score with a lack of collegiate production is not a good recipe for being a hit at the NFL level. Then we factor in, late career, production. We factor in draft position. All these things, they don't bode well. I always look at the teammate score. If a guy produces highly with a high teammate score, that's really impressive. It could be indicative of the offense. It could be indicative of the fact that this guy was just a very talented player. Look, Marquise Brown goes in the first round. Let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's going to have a big teammate score. He's going to play with other highly coveted players out of that same system, but the guy is uber productive at a young age. A lot of people should have known this with Hakeem Butler. Now, the injury is one thing. I don't think the NFL got the draft position wrong, to be quite honest with you, because he wasn't trending the right direction in Arizona prior to injury. And now we've got this, which is obviously going to set him back, but I don't feel like the NFL got him wrong. There was a tweet out earlier from Josh Herzmeyer, I believe, asking about Kevin White. And it was Kevin White an injury bust or just a bust on his abilities alone? And I think you got to put a lot of that on injury, but kind of what I went into it with is that he was just flat out overdrafted. Yeah. Right? If Kevin White was a third-round pick, nobody says anything right now, but he was clearly overdrafted. But a player with his measurables and his final year production, and even J.J. Zacharyson talked about how he looks at senior year production, his final year production, there was no way Kevin White was getting out of the second round, and he was likely a lock for the first round. So with that being said, Hakeem Butler was drafted correctly, I think. Yeah. We gotta save we gotta circle the wagons on the Kevin White talk, man. After this latest transaction here, our guy Russell Clay, man. I don't know a bigger Kevin White fan than Russell Clay, but I think this might be the final chapter, or one of the final chapters for Kevin, man. I'm surprised Russell likes Kevin White, because as somebody who co-built the database with Russell, I don't know that Kevin White checks a lot of the boxes that him and I got to DM him about this. I think
there's a conversation that will surely ensue.
Privately, he's going up the wrong hill here. So hit it, Ryan. What the hell is going on with Andrew Luck again? So, okay, and you put this here too. Are the Colts lying about something again?
Again. Bro, we know coaches, front offices, coaches lie every day. And I put this Andrew Luck nugget in here because obviously he is supporting so many of our favorite prospects in that offense. So if you are actively moving Andrew Luck down your rankings, you are effectively sliding down the rest of his skill positions as well. There's such a big ripple effect given his ability and his talent when he is 100% on the field, and just his ability to support multiple different fantasy assets. So and this is he's probably an interesting study regardless because of what happened last time when this whole shoulder thing kind of got dragged along. The owner was getting involved. Basically everything that the Colts team, front office, ownership, whatever it was, told us was a flat out lie, and they strung that along. And eventually he of course bounced back last year, played, but now it's that I personally get that same kind of eerie feeling. We just don't know. And I doubt any of us will know by the time that we are drafting, or if we have drafted already. I know you're probably looking back at that like shit, like it's really happening all over again. It doesn't sound like it's that kind of level of severity, but again, we're all probably, working off that trauma from a couple of years ago.
Man, and Andrew Luck in 2018 was pretty exceptional. I mean, coming off of the season prior, and then you look at his production. 39 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Andrew Luck was a monster. I was just looking back at his game log. I mean, I just don't get why Seattle won't do this. I mean, I get why they won't. Week 1, 53 pass attempts. Week 2, 31. Week 3, 40. Week 4, 62. Week 5, 59. Week 6, 43. Are you kidding me? Who? I mean, that's like an entire season of Russell Wilson's pass attempts.
Yeah, in like 5 games or 6 games or whatever, right?
But we need that. I mean, that's why Andrew Luck is putting up the numbers he's putting up. He's number 2 in pass attempts last year. And his production was through the roof yet again. And just like you said, we've got T.Y. Hilton, who's clearly his go-to. We're both very high on Paris Campbell and what his skills can bring to the table in this offense. Everybody's really high on Marlon Mack. They're claiming that Marlon Mack is going to be a pass catcher. I argued with Matt Kelly just last night about Marlon Mack. He thinks that Marlon Mack is going to see as many targets as Kerryon Johnson.
I don't know,
as
man.
James Conner. James Conner saw
man.
71 targets in like 13 games. James Conner was a lock for like 90 targets. I don't think Marlon Mack's going to see 50 targets. Call me skeptical. Call me whatever you want. I want to see a healthy Andrew Luck because I own a lot of the Colts as well. So we're both heavily invested in it. And, maybe there is something going on. I don't know when we're going to see him, but it sounds like potentially his week 1 outlook is not good. I mean, that's crazy to me. Crazy.
That's a lot of these. I think the Colts coach today, Frank Reich, came out and said that even the third preseason game, that's kind of the de facto. Even the starters are in there for a considerable amount of time. That's kind of the unofficial official dress rehearsal. Wright came out and said none of our starters are playing, and then there was a lot of conversation off that tweet from one of the Colts athletic guys or someone, but basically saying that in a handful of years we might not get starters in any preseason games. So do with that whatever you will. So Andrew Luck not playing preseason ball doesn't necessarily surprise me, but as you just said, the biggest red flag for me, and I'm sure for others, is the fact that when your week 1 status is in doubt, especially for Luck coming off of what he came off of, a couple of years ago, that doesn't necessarily give you that warm and comforting feeling.
I just want to say Russell Wilson's never missed a game. Same draft class.
Cheers, Russie.
Chug the cloth. Hey, I have a question for you, man.
Hit me.
So my daughter just had her 8th birthday, or she's having it actually technically tomorrow, but we celebrated it last week. We went and saw Jojo C Walk live in concert. Ryan, are you familiar with who Jojo C Walk is?
Bro, we were talking pre-show. You shot me. You might have shot me a text earlier today, and hey, Ryan, I a couple things I want to talk about tonight, and this was a name that I saw on the show sheet through your text, whatever the case was. And I meant to, since we are so prepared around here, we're so on top of things, I meant to run it back and actually do my Googles and figure out who he or she is. And unfortunately, I was too busy putting the claws in the fridge. I didn't get a chance to do that. So I can confidently sit here and perhaps disappoint you, but I have no idea who your daughter's friend is or what she does or what is. I mean, you need to enlighten me. I hope I'm not the only person that's in this boat, but I might be sitting there with this delicious mango claw by my lonesome.
She's well known. I mean, maybe not to the thousands and thousands of listeners of this podcast.
Right.
Maybe not, but let me tell you this. It was a stadium full of like girls between the ages of 5 and 13.
Okay.
And when Jojo C Walk came out, and she's a Nickelodeon pop performer. She can't sing worth a lick.
Okay.
She's got some catchy songs. She's
Okay.
got great crowd control. I used to rap, so I know how to get a crowd going.
Right.
I can hype
you
up.
definitely, yeah, of course.
I can hype up a majority crowd. No big deal. Doesn't matter what the demographic is. Point is, she came out, and the audible tone of the screams of a collective 6,500 little girls screaming was like a jet engine, like going off in your ear. It was deafening.
Incredible.
It was deafening, and the music was, I gotta be honest, it's a thin door. I'm sure my daughter can hear me. The music was terrible.
She might bust in, bro, and put you just kind of let you down slow tonight, bro. You better watch what you're saying.
It was absolutely terrible. And actually, tomorrow, Thursday the 22nd, is her birthday.
Okay.
Ryan, is there anything significant about Thursday the 22nd?
Thursday the 22nd, man. On my calendar, I had since the news broke earlier this week or late last week, bro. We are going to see, from what we're told, rumor has it, Derrius Guice step on the football field, perhaps take a carry or 5, perhaps catch a ball or 2. It's exciting times, man. For you can let's refresh the folks. Where kind of you stand on Derrius Guice. I'll share a couple thoughts on Derrius Guice, but he was one of the more coveted players and rookie dino, whatever the case may be. Obviously went down with the unfortunate injury, sidelined his entire rookie season. And now we're told he's back. I think the reports have generally been positive, but the 22nd is Derrius Guice Day, Nato. Are you excited? Should I be excited? Are we collectively excited?
Should anybody be more afraid to play in this preseason game than Derrius Guice? The last time he played in a preseason football game, he tore his ACL. Right? I mean, shredded it. He broke off like a 39-yard run or a 36-yard run. I remember because I had Derrius Guice as the second back in that class behind the god Saquon Barkley.
Right.
Obviously, we all had Barkley 1, okay?
The entire world.
Only Fusu Vu had Barkley not 1. He probably had Barkley at running back 19
the most Fusu Vu take ever.
Right. Yeah, Guice was the RB0
right.
and Barkley was RB43.
Of course.
But the point is, at one point, you could have made an argument that Derrius Guice was the best running back at LSU. Right? Even with Leonard Fournette in that backfield.
For sure.
Derrius Guice has the pop. We've seen clips of him in the offseason prior to the injury, showing an ability as a pass catcher, which was something that was in question. I mean, from a collegiate level, LSU has never thrown the ball to anybody. Whether it was, I believe, Jeremy Hill, whether it was, I think Stephen Ridley went there, whether it was any of these guys, nobody was a prominent pass catcher out of this backfield. So it shouldn't be in question. We saw a requisite 18 out of him in 2017, so we all should have been at least relaxed in the thought that, okay, he's shown it a little bit, and an offense that typically never does it, so we can cross that off the board. Then you saw him running routes at practice. He was running out of the outside. He was running in the slot. He was coming out of the backfield. So he showed a versatility there. I'm high on Guice. I still have Guice ranked much higher than many running backs in this class. Your best opportunity to buy him was back when they thought that he had like an infection in his knee and he was going to require more surgery, and there was a question if he was going to stick around. But what did the Washington Redskins really do to make you feel like he wasn't still going to be the guy? Adrian Peterson's got something left in the tank, but Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah, it's man. We've talked about the Washington offense mainly through the pass catching lens. I'm a Guice fan. I was right there with you, RB2. And the whole pass catching, his ability as a receiver narrative was really interesting. For every time someone had a negative comment about his ability to catch the football, I think our boy Fusu View had the same, half a dozen clips of Guice lining up in the slot, effortless out of the backfield, when he was playing in these All-American type games. So Guice to me kind of reminded me of what Nick Chubb went through, and I kind of chalked it up. Both of them was, it was more or less, it was not so much their ability as a receiver, but the amount of times, as you were just kind of alluding to, their the way that the team kind of got them involved in that regard. The LSU backfield, that when Matt Canada got hired, remember that whole conversation. The OC, he's going to get the ball going more through the air. We're going to have kind of another similar argument. We had Guice, we had Chubb. They're good on the ground. Can they catch? Jonathan Taylor going to completely shift gears on the Devy kind of side of things real quick. Jonathan Taylor, special runner on the ground. People have questions about his ability through the air as well. And I ran back, and you can probably do this for more than one player out of the Wisconsin backfield. Melvin Gordon, we know what he is now, but Melvin Gordon topped out at 19 receptions during his junior season at Wisconsin too. So again, just more to me, a team's willingness to kind of get these players involved through the backfield versus the actual ability to actually catch the football. So I digress. We'll put that all aside. We'll definitely revisit that throughout the offseason. But yeah, man, Guice is a talent. This Washington roster, as I was kind of gonna hit on, it's gonna be interesting. They drafted Bryce Love, who isn't, I don't think, 100% off the knee injury himself. Chris Thompson has a large injury history himself, and he's back. We think, don't know for how long, but he's a pretty special pass catcher himself out of the backfield. So I'm sure if he's healthy, he's gonna get some looks. And then you have AP as well. So Guice, the path isn't as clear as you would like it to be, but I think talent-wise, and again, assuming that he is 100% and can stay the course in that regard, the talent was never in question. And now I think he shows out early, whether it's tomorrow night or kind of early in the season. I think it might be his backfield, kind of sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm with you. I'm not worried about Bryce Love either. We're talking about a guy that's coming off an ACL tear that's talked about he may not make it to the end of his rookie contract because he may go do something else. A guy that was never a pass catcher in college despite being a tweener when Christian McCaffrey had a 45-catch season, a 37-catch season. So I'll be more worried about Chris Thompson in a pass-catching role, obviously. I think a lot of people feel the same way. But Derrius Guice, people forget, man, you can go back to the year that he played with Leonard Fournette, and he was the better back in that offense. And that's not a slander to Leonard Fournette by any means, but Derrius Guice was the better runner back in 2016 when Leonard Fournette later goes on to be, I think, the number 4 pick overall in the draft to the Jags. And then he becomes just a Jag. I mean, it was perfect. It was appropriate. So
Poetry even.
I'm with you on Derrius Guice. I'm high on him. I think he needs to go back out there and kind of show people that he's got something, he's got something to prove, obviously, but not to me, not to you. This is a guy that's got the pop. He's been slept on for a year now because he had the injury. It's going to be too late to get him after Thursday night when he breaks off that huge Amir Abdullah style run. And then the hype is he's uncorked. You can't put him back in the bottle at that point.
Status, for sure.
It's over, man. So it's an explosive athlete. And another reminder, he should have gone in the first round of the NFL draft. Him slipping to the late second round was a combination of rumors of him being late to meetings, him being divisive, off-field stuff. Listen, but he argued that point. He said that this was untrue. There was a narrative that was being driven. I remember people, I think it was him that said that teams were asking him, personal questions that he was offended by. So it was a really weird draft process for him. But this is a first-round talent. So don't forget that in a backfield that's got a 200-year-old running back in front of him. Ryan, what's next on the list?
Bro, so from one running back to another, and I guess at this point in the offseason, Nate, man, we might owe David Montgomery some sort of an apology. He is, I'll get around to the headlines in a second, but it might have been a month ago, maybe less than a month ago, a little more than a month ago, you or someone at Breakout Finder LLC here, man, may or may not have photoshopped some bricks on David Montgomery's feet. I don't recall if that might have been you. It's neither here nor there right now. What matters right now is that Terez Paylor here, veteran Chiefs beat writer now over at Yahoo, says, quote unquote, the Bears are in love with David Montgomery. That comes, I think, the same day or a day apart when head coach Matt Nagy here said that Tariq Cohen might have had too much work last year. So they're gonna so Montgomery is kind of trending in one direction. Tariq Cohen might take a little bit of a step or two back. Mike Davis, to me, isn't necessarily a threat that you're gonna write home about. So all the stars here for our pal Dave Montgomery seem to be aligning. and it looks like he's going to be, in that kind of, you're going to want to leave drafts with a Miles Sanders, with a David Montgomery, with a Justice Hill. These rookie runners, man, could be, one or two of them could be league winners here. Should we be changing our tune about David Montgomery? I'm not sure we really bashed him as much as others, but I don't think either of us were necessarily very high on him. But it sounds to me like this rocket ship's going one way, bro.
I mean, yeah, the bricks on the feet thing, that's not going to change anytime soon. I don't.
More bricks.
Yeah, I would actually add more bricks. I think I only put 2. I would have put much bigger bricks, bigger slabs of concrete.
Okay.
The point is, yes, people talked about him being a tackle breaker, and again, this goes back to college. We talked about how, his line didn't create a lot for him. He was forced to break tackles. The argument was that he was breaking a lot of tackles in the backfield because he just wasn't an athletic running back, and he wasn't getting down the field in a hurry. This is an offense that it sounds like they want to move away from Tariq Cohen a little bit. I don't know if that's the best thing in the world. I think Tariq Cohen is a dynamic playmaker, but they drafted David Montgomery early enough, and there's not a lot of competition in this backfield. I mean, Tariq Cohen is not a traditional running back by any means. So he's not really a threat to David Montgomery outside of maybe 5 to 6 carries in any given game. Mike Davis, right? Mike Davis is the only other running back really in this backfield that could be a potential threat. I still think Davis has the pop if Montgomery goes down, but it would be naive to think that they would draft David Montgomery. This sort of buzz would continue to come out about him, about his receiving ability, that they're in love with him. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and that's probably true. In this particular draft class, I think all of us were still with Josh Jacobs, with Miles Sanders ahead of him, but David Montgomery has always been the third running back in this class. Now the question is, for redraft purposes, where do you take him? He's still going to be one of the later running backs to go off the board, but yes, you should be buying him. In Dynasty, if you're at the third pick, you're taking David Montgomery. I tried to get him in a league. I had 104. He was gone. I was at N'Keal Harry. I moved off the pick because I wanted David Montgomery myself. And the point is, whether you evaluate him as not being a great talent or being an amazing talent, the fact is Chicago invested in him. Chicago likes him. Chicago's indicating that they're going to use him heavily. We know, if nothing else, that David Montgomery is a quality pass catcher. It's evident in his college production. It's evident in the film. He's got enough agility to be shifty. I was not super high on David Montgomery, but again, it's a mistake if you're not buying David Montgomery.
Yeah, I spoke about the rankings that, by the way, all my quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end rankings are updated on the sites. The breakout finder right now, put those up last night. You will see David Montgomery checking at RB22, and he is currently 47 overall for me, which is right towards the tail end of the 4th round. So for redraft purposes, that's where I would start to think about him. I imagine, depending on the type of league you're playing in, he might slip a little bit more than that. So I think after the 4th round, 5th, 6th round, you're looking at a pretty good value for a player who should be kind of touching on that bell cow type status, whether almost immediately or within the early parts of this season. Nate, man, the next again another topic for us that you and I seem to revisit every single week. It's one of our favorite players. Marquise Brown, not necessarily one of our favorite players, but he has quote unquote a ways to go. That's from his own head coach, obviously coming off the injury or injuries. And we saw that window kind of stay open in camp this offseason because of said injury. And someone stepped through that window, Nate. Our guy, Miles Boykin, our guy, 6'4", 220, Miles Boykin, stepped through effortlessly through that window. Right now, man, it seems like he's getting all the breaks. Again, we talked about Lamar Jackson a lot, and kind of these wide receivers, these pass catchers are dependent on his ability. But it seems to me like this Miles Boykin window just keeps staying more and more open.
Miles Boykin, man, this is a guy that in the breakout finder had the number 1 level of competition score out of this 2019 class. So it shouldn't be a total surprise that this guy is finding success in this offense. And remember, every week when he's practicing, he's going up against some of the best guys in the league. I mean, they've got a very dominant defense as well. I'm not surprised necessarily that Marquise Brown is coming off an injury, has some hurdles, already undersized. He is a burner. I think we talked about this a month ago at least, that Marquise Brown may not be the best fit for Lamar Jackson, where Miles Boykin may be a much better fit for the style of football that Lamar Jackson is going to play. And as we saw Lamar Jackson last week, I mean, he's hurdling guys again. He's looking more confident in year 2. The Ravens have constantly talked about the fact that his passing has gotten better, that he's been legitimate this offseason. If that is true, and we saw it in college, he was a guy that took a step forward year over year at Louisville. So if it's true and it's happening at the NFL level, Miles Boykin is absolutely the guy that I would want to hitch my wagon to, because he is a freak athlete, right? This is a guy that's a 94th percentile spark athlete, a 4.42 40-yard dash. Every other metric outside of his 40 is over the 90th percentile. His catch radius is in the 100th percentile. So the guy's got long arms, and if Lamar Jackson's going to make an error throw, maybe this is the guy you want to be thrown to anyways as a safety valve. And he had the requisite draft position. I mean, he was borderline the end of the 3rd round, but the Ravens saw him fit to be selected there. So he's got the feature size. He's got the athleticism. He played a tough college schedule back at Notre Dame. This is a guy that people should have been a little higher on, and I refuse to be surprised that he's playing as well as he is in Ravens camp. And with Marquise Brown missing time or coming along slowly, who's to say that Miles Boykin doesn't end up building that rapport with Lamar Jackson and being the guy? Because we talked about it. There is a chance that despite Marquise Brown being the earlier draft pick, not being the better player of the two.
Yeah, it's going to be, man, I think, again, between the Cardinals offense and the Ravens offense, 2 offenses that I know we're both super, super keyed in on this season, man. Just a lot of moving parts and a lot of chances for us to kind of get that breakout, and that's going to vault these teams that we're drafting. Speaking of players that could potentially break out, DJ Chark, man, down in Jacksonville, Florida. Quote unquote, the most impressive receiver at Jags camp. Again, Nick Foles, Blake Bortles, there's an upgrade there. In general, a team that should be better. One would think versus the product on offense last year. I'm interested to get your thoughts on Chark, a player that I've seen. Again, Sean Siegel to me comes up once a show here too. He's kind of been a late round. I don't want to say priority dart, but someone that I've seen Siegel come away with in a couple of the drafts that he's done. Marquise Lee, I think, just got activated off the PUP a day or 2 ago. But again, a player that's probably dealing with his own stuff and trying to get back into the groove. Number one, what are your thoughts about Chark in general? Is it a player that we need to be monitoring more closely? Number two, kind of a 1A, 1B type question, man. Dede Westbrook's a player that I brought up. I think I wrote about him as a favorite late July buy a few weeks ago. A player that I've been targeting heavily myself. Do you think Chark's emergence or impressive camp abilities puts a dent in Dede Westbrook's armor at all?
I think that with what has come out about DJ, I think that people should be on notice. Look, this is a guy that Jacksonville drafted just a year ago in the 2nd round. I mean, it's funny. This guy goes in the 2nd round quietly. We have heard literally nothing about him since being drafted in the 2nd round. But this was a guy with a 96th percentile college yards per reception. You go back and look, he was a big play threat in an offense that's not really known for passing the ball a whole lot at LSU. But what is interesting is if you go to the Breakout Finder, I swear to God it's coming, everybody, I promise. If you go back to the Breakout Finder, he was ranked right behind Dante Pettis, which is interesting because a lot of information has come out about Dante Pettis, and now there's a fear for people. So very interesting that these two guys are ranked side by side. But what I will say about DJ is that he had a 74.1 teammate score. Again, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, we mentioned that there was a 17.1 for Hakeem Butler. So at least DJ was playing with a group of competition around him. and still producing on the level of that he did, because I've tried to make the point that if they've got a high teammate score but low production, how was the production? How was he used? We can rationalize away a little bit of that production the way that we did Michael Thomas. And I talked about this on the Sonic Truth the other day, but it's the same story. We beat the hell out of Michael Thomas. He was a piñata in the industry for an entire offseason. And then what happens? Oops. Apparently he's elite. Oops. So where did we miss him? And this is another one of those big factors, is attributing a value to those that someone played with and trying to quantify that. So, and the other thing is, he had a relatively high level of competition score. So this is a guy that had tough competition on the field in terms of defensive matchups. This is a guy who had to battle for opportunity. And this is a guy that went in the second round. Now let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who's in front of him? Chris Conley, who hasn't hit. Dede Westbrook, who is good, slightly inefficient, went in the fourth round, probably fell a little bit. Keelan Cole, undrafted free agent. So there's guys in this offense, but yes, I think we need to start paying attention to DJ, because really and truly, why don't we like him?
Yeah, I mean, again, it is going to be, if he does, hit this year. And again, outside of Siegel, I'm sure there's been other kind of big name analysts that have been, prioritizing his name late. If he does hit this year, or at least begin that ascendance, he's going to be a player, just like you said, bro, that quietly in the second round, again, given the offense he was drafted to, Blake Bortles, no one was getting excited back then. But now, Nick Foles, regardless of what you think about Nick Foles, end of the day, that is a Blake Bortles upgrade. This offense should be better, if not for nothing, maybe slightly more efficient. And Chark again has that draft capital, checks those boxes that you just mentioned. So he's going to be a name that some of us might look back on kind of midway through the season or towards the end of the season and say, man, I don't know how this kid just kept sliding and really was just under the radar for so long.
And I should mention too that I did a podcast the other night with Matt Kelly and Raymond Summerlin, and he brought up DJ Chark as one of these guys that people need to pay attention to, that's not getting enough hype. So, and like you said, Siegel, there's some smart guys in the industry out there. And just like we're keeping tabs on what's coming out of training camp and what's the consistent narrative, that's what we're trying to follow. Man, you got smart guys out there that are all kind of beating the same drum. People need to follow that. These guys know what they're doing. And if they're preaching it, maybe it's time to get on it. And I guarantee right now you can get DJ for very, very cheap, because somebody's clearly trying to sell him on the hype. You could probably get DJ for a second-round pick. Honestly, I'm not that concerned about it, but we both agree we're big fans of the 2020 class, so it's really up in the air. But Nick Foles could change everything.
Speaking of another player, man, that had the draft capital and it's just kind of, fizzled around in mediocrity or just question marks, hasn't really lived up to that draft capital. Nelson Agholor, drafted 20th overall in the first round. USC kid, obviously 6 foot, 198. Looked like an NFL player coming out. And went to Philadelphia, and it's just kind of been, again, just kind of middle of the road. 700 yards in 2017, 8 scores, 700 yards, 4 scores in 2018. Obviously has Alshon Jeffrey playing in front of him. Carson Wentz is a good quarterback in his own right. Between Jeffrey, between Ertz, between the investment in the backfield, Dallas Goedert is just clawing, man, ready to break out himself. So there's some other weapons around there, but the headline out of Eagles camp, much like Chark for our guy Nelson Agholor here, is he was one of the camp winners here. Is there anything here? Is he undervalued heading into drafts? Is this a player that you're prioritizing, whether in redraft, whether in dynasty, just given the offense that he's playing? And I believe he is 24 or 25, 26 years old. Yeah, so not necessarily a young guy, but again, given the offense that he's playing, the quarterback that he's tethered to, where does he land on your radar, Nate?
Right. I mean, look, Agholor, yes, he is getting a little bit older now at 26, a guy who had a late breakout, but he may be the example of what we were used to in the past. Guys didn't break out like 2014. 2014 was such a mindfuck for everybody because they expect guys to hit right away, and they're so frustrated. Well, guess what? Better buckle up for N'Keal Harry, right? Get ready for that ride. Get ready for the Kevin White ride. And I'm not saying they're the same guy, but like you drafted these guys, expected something early, and you didn't get it. Nelson Agholor, on the other hand, you go back to the 2015 draft class. He was number 3 in the breakout finder. It went Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, Nelson Agholor. Look, Nelson Agholor had a very high teammate score, 79.2. A 60.8 level of competition score, was one of the highest in his class. So, again, played with teammates, tough competition. This is a guy that was expected to be an outside receiver, found himself playing in the slot a lot more, which was a more effective position for him when he went to the Eagles. But we've seen good production from him in back-to-back seasons now. I mean, and it's relative, but a catch percentage over the last 2 years, averaging about 65.5, 95 targets back-to-back years again, and over 60 catches for 2 years. So, at his price tag, he is the Lamar Miller of wide receivers. I mean, legitimately producing enough that you can use him as a week-to-week flex type play.
Sure.
We hope that there's an ascendance here, but never really respected enough to garner a first-round pick. Never really respected enough to be one of these wide receiver 2 classified guys. But would anybody be surprised if he had sort of a Golden Tate level ascendance at some point, if we saw him with an 80-catch season, 85-catch season, or he followed that path over the next couple years of his career? Because based on his catch percentage, if he was getting as many targets as a guy like Golden Tate, we might see similar production. No, he's not the yak receiver, even though he was number 22 in the league last year on just 97 targets. So that's kind of a surprising stat as well. So he may not be on the level that Golden Tate is, but he's absolutely being slept on. And you're absolutely right. He's tethered to a guy who I've tried to argue for in the past as well. He could be that Andrew Luck type in a healthy season. He could be a Matt Ryan type, a 40-plus touchdown, 4,500, 4,600 yard, passer, has a creative offense. They invested in the running back. They added Arcega-Whiteside. He's got the safety valve and Alshon Jeffrey. They've got Zach Ertz. They've got this O-line. They drafted Andre Dillard. They do all these things. They're making a concerted effort to make positive changes in this offensive front. And you could do worse than Nelson Agholor, and he's not that expensive.
Right. Yeah, and that's what it comes back to, man. It's a player that again just kind of gets pushed aside for whatever the reason. Again, maybe he in the mind of most, he hasn't lived up to that first round draft slot. But again, I'm all about just the players. In Agholor's case, a player that is probably a good player, but good players and good offenses. That's normally a pretty safe place to start. We talked about Tariq Cohen already, man, and his workload maybe rumored to be dialed back. Another running back that has been a topic, surprisingly enough, I won't forget the day that Matt Kelly came on here, bro, and argued for Ronald Jones. After you guys did whatever you did to poor Ronald Jones on the Sign of Truth pod, and I'm sure pods across the nation, man, Ronald Jones, that rookie season, one to forget. He had his share of question marks coming out of school. Again, the production was there, but the hands. We talked about running backs with inabilities as pass catchers. Ronald Jones, for me, was one that certainly had that red flag up. But going back to someone like Sean Siegel, who's an absolute legend in this industry, he was much like Matt Kelly. Pounding the table, so to speak, for the Ronald Jones bounce back. Now we see Jones with the knee injury or dealing with some sort of knee pain. Hasn't really again, it's preseason, limited sample sizes and all that, so not much to go off of there. But again, a player that this coaching staff is certainly trying to prop up, trying to rebuild that confidence. And again, I guess the thought is it's a new staff. They're going to throw out last season. Let's start fresh. It's a player that I think at the right spot makes a lot of sense. Just kind of hoping for that bounce back. Clearly, he was a high value target for that front office at one point in time, a high draft pick. But Peyton Barber is that guy that just won't necessarily go away or go down without swinging. Has anything changed for you with Ronald Jones, Nate? Is it a player that if he's there at a reasonable no, you're shaking it no all the way?
I want to do the
bro.
Shannon Sharp. No chance. Here's the thing. I would buy Ronald Jones on the fact that he's inexpensive. I want to acquire, and this is more a redraft play, but I want to acquire players in a backfield where there's opportunity. Look, Peyton Barber's there. Ronald Jones is there. That's about it. I know that people are hyping up, and I'm always going to screw his name up.
Yeah.
Agumbawale, is that?
Yeah, dude. Kelly was just tweeting about OG all day today. OG,
Yeah.
OG.
Yeah. So that's a name. That's a name to keep an eye on. I mean, especially in an offense when they're willing to sit Ronald Jones as much as they did last year. I think it was inactive a couple games, and then push Peyton Barber, a running back who's an undrafted free agent. Look, the best thing that ever happened to Peyton Barber was Ronald Jones going to the Bucs in the second round. Because if this was Derrius Guice in the second round of this team, and he never shredded his knee, you would have never heard of Peyton Barber. That would not be a household name. And he's not even a household name. He's just got no competition. I think the fact that Ronald Jones offers that pop as a runner could be the reason that he still gets opportunities in this backfield as a committee backfield or a spell to Peyton Barber. But, man, you just can't be a fan of a guy that all the way back to college, I mean, he had 14 receptions at USC. I know that we go back and we talk about Melvin Gordon and we talk about these LSU backs like Guice who only had a couple more receptions. But Derrius Guice was in the SEC murdering year over year. So that's got to count for something. I'm not bashing on the Pac-12, but there's been a lot of Pac-12 running backs that haven't hit in the NFL, and Ronald Jones seems like the next running back in that lineage to not do it. At his price tag at 22 years old, is there still a chance? Yes, I would still own him on a deep roster if I could get him, if he wasn't going to cost me anything. Who's to say that he doesn't get opportunities? I think that the ownership and the people that drafted Ronald Jones don't want to be left holding the bag or have egg on their face, so they're going to give him a shot. He's going to get a chance to own this backfield, whether he looks like shit in the offseason or not, or through preseason, and he hasn't been great yet. So if I can own him, I will. Am I a believer? Absolutely not. I don't want anything to do with Ronald Jones outside of an inexpensive buy.
Ronald Jones, a back that, I think you and I covered all the ground there is to cover there. A back that is maybe trending towards, if things don't fall into place kind of sooner rather than later, he's kind of trending towards that. He might just stink territory. And we don't want to roster those guys. A back that, at this point, I'm fairly confident does stink. Got a little bit of buzz just given the offense that he landed in. Had a weird kind of bounce around from team to team last year a little bit. But Carlos Hyde, the Athletics, Nate Taylor, I believe it is, who I'm assuming covers the Chiefs beat down there, left him off his Chiefs 53-man roster projection twice now. I think he released one late last week and refreshed it earlier today or the day before. Either way, no Carlos Hyde. The buzz out of Chiefs camp, man, is all Darwin Thompson, everything. I'm clutching on to the last Damien Williams teams that I have, and I'm not trying to go down without a fight myself, but the Darwin Thompson drumbeat, man, is growing louder every single day. He's had a couple highlight runs already in these preseason contests. Just an absolute freak, kind of in that Tariq Cohen type mold. Isn't your traditional your traditional running back, 5'8", 198, but again, an absolute monster in the gym during his draft cycle, man. Just stupid videos of him just benching way too much weight and everything else. So the dude obviously gets it done physically, takes care of himself. Last his junior season at Utah State, 23 receptions, again, kind of in that Tariq Cohen type mold where he is a capable receiver, dynamic enough in the open field, which we've seen in these early preseason games here. So, Damien Williams aside, was Darwin Thompson a guy that you were buying prior? Is he a guy you were buying now? Where do you stand? Where is your temperature on Darwin Thompson?
Well, first off, How did the weight room work out for Jerick McKinnon? Is that a good fit? The guy could squat 600 pounds, but
we gotta save the Kevin White combo for Russie, and we gotta save the Jerick McKinnon combo for your guy Matt Kelly, man.
Yeah, I'm looking to fight. I want to fight.
I am always here for you and Kelly sparring, especially when it's about Jerick McKinnon, man. Someone that I think Kelly did cover at one point in time. I'm not sure where he is right now with them, but
you got to listen to the Sonic Truth podcast. I love that our show airs first because this is a canned take, and I'm going to do the same take. Here's my take on Darwin Thompson. With the 2020 class coming, Kansas City seems like a perfect fit for a day two running back. for a second round, third round running back to land in KC, because since Jamal Charles, there's been no allegiance. That's 2014. There's been no allegiance to any running back. Charkandrick West was an undrafted free agent, gone. Spencer Ware, late round pick, gone. Damien Williams, undrafted free agent starting the year. We thought it was his backfield. Looks like he might be gone. Carlos Hyde, old age player, getting leaped. Darwin Thompson, late round pick, suddenly rises to the top. What happens if next year this is a team that takes a running back in the second round? He's going to eviscerate the value of anybody on this roster. And I firmly believe that if Kareem Hunt never had the career go the direction it did, he would be the guy in KC. He would be the long-term answer. And I'm still a fan of him in his situation, and I would be buying Kareem Hunt, but we're not talking about Kareem Hunt. We're talking about Darwin Thompson. Why are you changing the subject? Let's stay on topic, for God's sake.
Get focused. Come on.
Look, as Matt Kelly said it, the Mountain Whack Conference, and I have beat this conference up. I have crapped on this conference. I fought Jeremy McNichols on this conference. I've had more wars on this hill than you can count. Count the stripes. I've fought on this hill a lot, and I've laid a lot of bodies out there. Look, Darwin Thompson has a unique skill set, but he's not a big back. I mean, I get that Andy Reid did the Jamal Charles thing. He's done the Charkandrick West thing. He's done all these different types of backs, explosive backs, athletic backs, whatever you want to call them. They all have a dynamism to them. They all are feature ability. But the fact of the matter is that this feels to me a lot like the Tampa Bay situation. I'm interested in them because you want to covet a running back in the KC system. But at the same time, I don't want to pay a lot for these guys, and I'd rather sell them because I believe that 2020 is the year that somebody shows up and steamrolls whoever is left in this backfield when it's all said and done. Yeah. Someone's getting pushed out.
Yeah, no, we're all about, we talked about the Philly offense, talked about the Cardinals offense. Man, these are offenses that you want to invest in these prospects, and whoever is running the backfield, the ball out of the backfield in KC, Andy Reid calling plays, Patty Mahomes under center, you want that back. Reid has a tendency to ride one back. Came out earlier, him and his staff said that. Kind of changed their tune a little bit on Damien Williams just a couple weeks back, which kind of had some of us, reconsidering and shifting some things around. And now this Darwin Thompson, news has only grown louder. So there's the cards are slowly being stacked against Damien Williams. And we talked pre-show, you and I, Nate. I know Damien Williams was the guy that you were trying to sell off and get whatever you could for him. I foolishly forgot that he was at the bottom of a roster or two, whatever like that. So I still have him. It worked out towards the end of last season. Now I was hoping for big things, and it looks like I'm going to get the Damien Williams, kiss of death once again.
It doesn't have to be a kiss of death, because the fact of the matter is Andy Reid's going to go with the best player that emerges out of this backfield. And we all collectively, experts to fans, believe that Damien Williams has the skill set and the talent and the previous proved production, albeit minimal, to be the guy in this offense. Just because Darwin Thompson has suddenly come out of nowhere to be the guy is similar to me in the Tony Pollard ilk. Look, I believe that when Zeke comes back, he's going to phase him out significantly, but it may be a hedge against the new contract for Zeke. In this case, though, I'm still buying Damien Williams. I'm not selling him yet. The problem is he's already lost value. So if you sell him now, you're taking a loss. You may as well carry him into the regular season. Worst case scenario is he loses the starting job to Darwin Thompson officially, and his value drops even more. But I don't believe that's the case. I think at best this is a split backfield, and I still believe that Damien Williams emerges out of it. I'm not a big fan of Darwin Thompson for a lot of reasons. Can we please move to a different running back that can catch a ball? Is there anybody else we can talk about?
Bro, listen, before we move on here, man, we'll talk more about running backs. I think we got another running. No, we have wide receiver talk coming up, bro. But so we're gonna shift gears. Before we shift gears to wide receivers, let's talk about a quarterback. We don't talk too many quarterbacks. We should maybe talk more about quarterbacks. Talk about Wentz a little bit.
I want to talk about quarterbacks, but I wasn't looking at the show sheet, and I noticed that you blew up.
I blew up some shit, bro. I was gonna try to be real professional about it, and hopefully see you come back around to it. You put some shit here That was on your mind, bro. I was going to talk
Yeah.
about quarterbacks. I was going to transition out. I got my radio game is really peaking right now.
Yeah.
But I want to give you the floor, bro. I want to give you the floor.
No, that's a great point. I appreciate you blowing that up to let me click on it, a size 30 font. That's good.
30 font.
I got an observation from the gym. I was at the gym earlier, pre-show, just trying to clear my head, get some thoughts out.
Right.
Get ready to take a dump on Marquise Brown. Get ready to take a dump on Ronald Jones. Get ready to take a dump on Darwin Thompson. I was ready to take a lot of dumps.
You went to dump.
And then I saw this guy walk into the gym, and I have noticed this trend recently. Now, I would love people's feedback. Find me on Twitter @AnOutrageJew. Tell me if you've seen the same thing. Look, I used to be in the hip-hop game. I wore the attire that was associated with the hip-hop game at the time that I was in it. And as I've gotten older, and as I've matured, and as I become a father to a daughter, my basketball shorts in particular, they've started to creep up the shin a bit. They got a little shorter.
Yes.
And a little shorter,
yes.
right? Used to be below the knee. Now I'm actually riding that fine line just above the knee.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it that way. But
Yes.
I've noticed a recent trend in the gym. Guys are wearing shorts that are like the equivalent to like soccer shorts, where literally from the waistband down, it's like 6 inches of shorts.
Wow.
Very,
Man,
very high.
Before, I think the show's early beginnings here, man, Game of Thrones was still running, and you and I were on the same page early, and we quickly split at the fork in the road. Our Game of Thrones opinions were opposite ends. Here, I thought you were kind of going one way with this topic here, bro. I gotta say, I'm all about the more thigh for your boy, the better. I'll be honest. We need to get Matt Kelly, or excuse me, we need to get Matt Harmon back on the show, bro. I recently invested. I'm so happy I had no idea where this topic was going. I'm so excited you brought this topic up, bro. Your boy recently invested. Bro, behind this closet right here, behind these closet doors, I got 3-4 pairs of, bro, it's like 7-inch inseam.
No.
I'm talking, bro. I'm telling you, it is your boy's thighs are shining all summer long. And I will caveat this by saying, in the gym, I would say runner shorts, maybe 7-8 inches as opposed to 6 or 7 inches. I tend not to go too high in the gym, but if I'm out on the beach, bro, the thighs are out on the beach. If I'm walking around bar to bar, bro, thighs are out. I'm upset that you're not more of a thigh guy.
That's unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. Like, I saw this guy walking in the gym, and to me, he looked like a frog wearing a pair of shorts. Like, had these long legs with these thin thighs, and I thought to myself, man, listen, you pull the socks up a little bit if you don't have calves, because it makes you look like you have calves. That's why you don't wear the low socks. But if you pull the shorts up, you got to have the thighs to make that work. Now, I'm not saying
I feel great about my thighs.
I can't tell if you have good thighs or not. Now, here's the thing. Here's my take. The guy that walked by didn't have great thighs. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay,
I should have popped an earbud out and said, buddy, you got to work on those thighs or get longer shorts, because this is an embarrassment to everybody. An absolute embarrassment.
I need the crowd's feedback, man. Here, I need to know our guy. I mean, because you started off, man. Couldn't agree more with you. The basketball shorts, past the knee. That's late '90s, bro. We're over that now. For me, anyways, the more thigh, man, the better. Let your thighs out, man. Let your thighs out.
This is a belligerent take, by the way. It's a belligerent
I'm one
take.
claw in, bro. The claw's not speaking right now.
No, and those guys are an embarrassment, but not as embarrassing as Jimmy Garoppolo's 0.0 passer rating. What do you got on Jimmy Garoppolo?
So yeah, as I was carefully navigating the Jimmy GCs before, man, and I mean, what it comes, I guess the question for you, for me, for the listenership here, what do we make of these preseason contests? Our guy, man, Evan Silva, the legend himself, had a great line, kind of quote tweeted Jimmy's, there was obviously a lot of commentary post Jimmy's first game back here. It wasn't good. But he basically said straight up, it's all about usage, which should override performance. We're not watching these preseason games to cherry pick highlight. Did this guy have 4 or 5 highlight plays? Yeah, those splash plays are nice for these rookies trying to make their mark. But Silva's big takeaway, as always, with preseason games is usage is greater than performance. So with that said, Jimmy G, we've talked plenty about the 49ers offense as well. All these pieces he has in place, whether it's Pettis, Goodwin, Hurd, the backfield of like 3-4 different runners he's got. Obviously, George Kittle at tight end. Things set up nicely for Jimmy Grant. He's got the personnel there. He's got the coach. On the other side of that coin is, again, you said it yourself back on the Harmon show. Do we even know what Jimmy G is at this point? Obviously fetched a pretty high draft pick, came from that New England system, looked pretty good in limited starts, got hurt. We don't have a ton on Jimmy G. Are you worried about Jimmy G's preseason performance given these unknowns?
I'm not worried about Jimmy G's preseason performance because I never thought Jimmy G was good. I wasn't the one that said that a guy with 361 career pass attempts at age, 20, almost 28? The guy's, he might as well be Brandon Whedon coming out old out of college because he's got about as many pass attempts as Brandon Whedon would have.
Uncle Brandon.
So what I don't get it. So Jimmy G has this renaissance year in 2017 where he throws 178 pass attempts and throws 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. I'm confused. That sounds like a Nick Foles game. That sounds like one Nick Foles game. Maybe not that many interceptions, but I don't understand where the allure of Jimmy Graham was. Yes, we like George Kittle. Yes, we like Deebo Samuel. I like Dante Pettis. I don't love Dante Pettis. I'm a much bigger fan of Deebo Samuel in this offense. I would rather talk about Deebo Samuel than Jimmy Garoppolo, but you asked me about Jimmy Garoppolo, so let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. He goes out and doesn't play that well. I'm confused. Daniel Jones plays well. Everybody loves him. Jimmy Garoppolo plays like crap, has absolutely no career production. Nah, pump the brakes. He's all right. He's going to be okay. I don't believe it. I've never believed it for a second. I've never been high on Jimmy Garoppolo. Put him in a body bag.
Bro, I'm going to throw 2 more things out there regarding your guy Jimmy G here before we move on, and we're about ready to wrap this thing up here. We're not talking about, number one, just how handsome Jimmy G is, man. That's got to count for something.
He's good
obviously, Jimmy GQ, and he has the dated or took a porn star out on a date narrative, that was a big thing. I don't know if you remember last offseason or 2 off seasons ago, bro was seen out there, and that may or may not affect his stock going forward. I'm going to throw that out there. I'm going to leave it on the table. Feel free to do with it what you will. One thing that I do want to do a lot with, very near and dear to my heart, hopefully very near and dear to your heart as well. Josh Gordon, man, I don't know if you've seen the news. Josh Gordon applied and was granted reinstatement. He is back. Josh Gordon is back. All of a sudden, the Patriots get Julian Edelman back off the NFI list. All of a sudden, the Patriots get Demaryius Thomas back off the PUP list. All of a sudden, Tom Brady has a trio of interesting pass catchers post Rob Gronkowski. Tom Brady's, his offense may or may not have been left for dead, kind of leading up to this point. But now all of a sudden, man, it's roses. The Patriots, right before our very eyes, bro, are patrioting again. It's happening. You and I can't stop it. Is there anything you want to add here? Where do you stand on? Let's just talk about Josh Gordon, man. Are you all in on Josh Gordon? I've pushed my chips in.
Look, I love Josh Gordon. The price tag is going to consistently be too high. Remember, Josh Gordon's 28 and a half years old. He's missed a lot of time. The expectations that Josh Gordon is going to come out and be a superstar player, we've seen him play well in limited stuff in the past year. Last year, obviously everybody's reeling on 2013. Everybody kind of forgot 2014 where there was another suspension, but not really the player that he was the year prior. Very interesting. But even talking to Tom or listening to Tom Brady talk about him, mentions that guys don't pick up this offense as quick as he has. He's really clicking with them. You've got to like that. This is clearly something that's going to hurt N'Keal Harry. This is where I would be buying N'Keal Harry if Demaryius Thomas is right at the very end. I mean, he is right at the end. He's Vincent Jackson at the end. He's not Larry Fitzgerald. He's not going to play beyond this. If Josh Gordon comes back, if Julian Edelman comes back in an offense that we expect to be less down the field passing, less, pass friendly, more run the ball with Sony Michel, more run the ball with Damian Harris if he gets opportunities, pass the ball to James White, pass the ball to Sony Michel, kind of get these guys, get Julian Edelman involved like he has been in the past. I don't know what Josh Gordon's upside is in this offense, but I will say that the expectation that he outplays a guy like N'Keal Harry is very real. And we should all expect that. I think that this is going to be a lost year for N'Keal Harry if it plays out the way that it sounds like it's going to, because last year, I believe the New England Patriots ranked number 11 in pass attempts. I'm not sure that we see that in 2019. I know this is a fairly balanced offense, but we could see Tom Brady throw the ball even less going into next year, ranking maybe number 15, number 16 in this regard, which would drop his overall pass attempts probably down to like the lower 500s, the 525 range. So I don't know that I'm happy about this for N'Keal Harry's purposes, but there's people selling Josh Gordon, we hope, for a little bit cheaper because his buy-sell window has closed so many times. So many times. Like a teenage daughter trying to sneak out, in the middle of the night. Here's a creak on the floor. Close the window. Gets quiet, open it up. And I have a daughter. I'm bolting that thing shut, putting bars on it.
What an analogy, man. Good
piranhas.
For you. This is piranhas. You gotta lay the piranhas on the floor. That's what I always said.
Right,
bro.
Right.
We have one more question lined up here.
No.
We've had our time this week, Nate. We've drank a claw. We've yelled way too much. Maybe I yelled way too much about showing your thighs. I very, very pleased with the general direction of the show. Last question here, bro, is one that your boys kept in his back pocket for a few weeks now. One that I didn't really want to speak about. I thought Sig was going to go there last week when he mentioned Antonio Brown. But for those that may not know, I, for some reason, follow the Oakland Raiders. Have for as long as I could remember. And that experience has been an experience in of itself. Antonio Brown these past few weeks, man, between the cryogenically frozen feet and the helmet issues and everything else, Hard Knocks, the whole deal. It's been something. The timeline, for better or for worse, has been a lot of fun. Now, the question that I want to ask, I'm more comfortable asking now. I've sat alone in quiet reflection, and I've had a moment. I'm ready for whatever you're going to throw at me, whatever the general public is speaking about here, man. Do you have any expectations for let me rephrase that. Where do your expectations lie? You obviously have expectations. We know about Antonio Brown. We know about the Rice comparisons. We know about all this stuff. He's not in Pittsburgh anymore. He's in Oakland. He's not with Ben anymore. He's with Derek. Nate, do you want to send me off on a high here, or am I going to hang up, go to the fridge, and open 4 more White Claws?
Look, I thought that Amari Cooper was a good wide receiver. I was under the impression that he could run routes. I was under the impression that he was young, athletic, and a hard worker. It was odd to me to see him in Oakland so unsuccessful towards the end of his career. And now the ultra diva Antonio Brown comes into town. He's got the helmet issue. He's got the frozen foot issue.
Wild to me.
Very
it's
weird.
Wild. Yeah.
Very weird situation that has transpired here. I don't know if Antonio Brown ever sees the target opportunity that he saw in Pittsburgh. In fact, I can confidently tell you that I don't believe he will ever see over 150 targets ever again in Oakland. The rapport is not there with him and Derek Carr. Derek Carr is not the quarterback level of Ben Roethlisberger. Oakland's not going to ask Derek Carr to throw the ball as Pittsburgh is asking Ben Roethlisberger to do it. Roethlisberger ranked, I believe, number 1 or number 2 in the league last year. Oakland was number 16 in pass attempts last year. So I don't know how this is going to play out. I figure Antonio Brown's probably going to fall into that 115, 120 target range, probably in Oakland. I still believe he's going to finish the year as a wide receiver too because his talent is there. I don't think you're going to get the return on a guy who's 31 years old, who's got issues in the past with teams, who's already stepped into this offense and made a very bad impression. Who knows what the team feels about him, right? Showing up, creating issues, not being at practice. He showed up to practice Tuesday. I know Derek Carr is the ever unwavering believer that he is.
Yes.
He's going to be...
Choose your words very wisely.
Very, very carefully. I tiptoed around that one. That he's obviously, if you're Derek Carr, you're a fan that Antonio Brown is coming. I mean,
Sure.
Antonio Brown's one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history. He said it himself. If he retired today, he's a great player. If he retired today, we would argue that he goes into the Hall of Fame without question. The guy's been phenomenal. I just think that he may have been more of a product of rapport, the system, and the quality of quarterback play, and coming to Oakland could be a big step down for Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I used to, man, the early days of Twitter, man, I used to hop on and just argue with anybody about anything Raider related. I was one of the guys that I was just sticking my neck out no matter what. My team was right. The record was never there. I didn't care, man. I was out there just firing tweets off left and right. Bow, bow, my team. Raiders this, Raiders that. Now, I mean, I've consciously, I mean, really ever since the John Gruden hire, I've taken a bunch of steps back, and obviously still a fan of the team. But I've been a lot more careful with my interactions and obviously the expectations and all that stuff. So I'm for whatever it may be. As you said, Antonio Brown is a ridiculous talent, and I expect some things to change given his arrival in Oakland versus the scenery he was around in Pittsburgh. But Derek Carr never. Amari Cooper was a fantastic player, never really kind of materialized in Oakland. But Derek Carr's never had a player like Antonio Brown. So for whatever it is, I'm excited to see kind of what transpires. This thing could go one of many different ways. So again, I'm just happy to be able to sit here and talk about Raiders football in some sort of light here. So I don't want to end on a Raiders football note here, man. So you can let us ride out here, Nate. Tell the folks where they can find us again, about the sites, all that stuff. Yo, I want to say real quick, we pre-show, bro, we talked about lining up 2 or 3 of these delicious White Claws, man. It didn't happen, but halfway through the show, bro, I was like, I could really go for another one. But as you and I talked, man, it's like you open up that 2-claw window. Next show, it's going to be everyone in the comments, open up 3 claws. Hey, Nate, open up 4 claws. Ryan, why don't you open up a 5th? Bro, I gotta do stuff tomorrow, man. This could be a slippery slope, but these things are delicious, man. Mango. If you don't like mango, I don't like you. Nate, bro, let the people know.
That's justified. Listen, man, again, check out Ryan on Twitter at StillRyan5. You can follow me on Twitter at AnOutrageJew. Again, going back to it, look, we're going to do some exciting things. And again, we want to keep this train rolling. Big things are coming for the Breakout Finder project, not just the database, but we're working on something really special that you may or may not be able to use one day mobily. Keep that in mind. But check out the Patreon account /Breakout Finder. We're going to be our most accessible there. Ryan and I have already talked. When the regular season comes in, we're going to open up a window before game time, maybe an hour, and we're going to take live questions on Twitter. And about 45 minutes before game time, we're going to close that off and take it over to Patreon. So if you've got questions, if you're a game day guy and you want to get in there at that lowest tier and get your questions answered, get that confirmation bias, let it wash over your soul.
Oh, yes.
Because no matter what we say, your mind's already made up.
100%.
Assumedly, right? So with that being said, let you tell me what you want me to say, and I'll say that to you.
Right.
And we'll do that in there. So some cool stuff in there. I might even post a picture from the Jojo C Walk concert just to prove I was there. Show how hyped that was. So check those things out. Ryan's making updates on his rankings all the time as the season's about to kick off. We've got really cool guests coming. In fact, Ryan and I talked earlier. We got a big-time, super smart guest coming on next week. I'm probably not even going to talk because if I open my mouth, he's going to return fire and drop knowledge on me like I've never experienced in my life. I went to public school, so that's probably true. So anyways, thank you everybody for tuning in. This podcast is absolutely on fire. The response is huge. The plays are evident that people enjoy it. Spread the word. Hit subscribe, like, Share it to the world. Comment wherever you want. Remember, this is a podcast, but we also have a video too. So if things got wacky, if you want to see Ryan talking about his short shorts because he narrows his legs, go find that in the video. He's drinking a White Claw and wears short shorts. What can I say?
Well, bro, there's nothing. It doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get better than that.
It might. It might. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week on the Breakout Finder video cast.